Jai Hind students, welcome back to my IT tutorials, and today I'm going to discuss about the last unit, that is unit 5 of your IT 402, and the session that we have today is sustainable development. Sustainable development, this is the one of the session and the last unit of our, that is unit 5. Objectives, as you can see, we have introduction, then the evolution of the system development, the definition of the sustainable development, the concept of the sustainable development, we'll see that, and the principles of sustainable development, objectives of sustainable development, and then we have importance of sustainable development and measures to be taken for sustainable development. These are the objectives for today. Now, development, as you all know, is always one of the intention of human being from the starting. Human being always strive for the development immediately after the civilizations. Though that time the development purpose was not to have a sustainable development, the purpose was some development should be there. And from the ancient time, we as a human being always strive for the development, as I mentioned. Every individual want to develop, even it is you and even it is me. Every individual have an intention to develop something for his own sake and for the sake of nation, for the sake of society, for the sake of country, whatever the way you want to say. That is what development is, and development is inbuilt again nature of ours, I mean human being. And sustainable development, if you are talking of, this is a new again concept of development, that is sustainable development. It means our development should be such which may sustain in future without hampering and tempering our environment. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of today's generation, mind it. Sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of today's generation without compromising the future generation, without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs, is what the sustainable development is. It means any kind of development that we do today, if it will not impact our environment, it will not damage our environment, and our generation, future generation should not miss the opportunity to develop something new at that time. And that is what sustainable development is. It's one of the very again good chapter of yours, where you will come to know what do mean by sustainable development, why sustainable development required, what are the procedures to have a sustainable development, how the countries are contributing in the sustainable development, which country is taking initiatives or taken initiative the first time for the sustainable development. This all will talk. So this is what the introduction is. What we came to know, development is always an inherent nature of human being. And we as a human being always strive to have a development from immediately after the civilization. That was our desire. Though that development never again bothered about the impact of that development. But today's the scenario has changed, and our intention now to develop something which can sustain for a long time without again worse effect on our environment. That is what sustainable development is. And the definition of sustainable development, if someone is asking you, you must say a sustainable development is a development that meets the need of today's generation and without compromising the future generation to meet their need, is sustainable development. Two things are there as an concepts of sustainable development. One is a requirement of ours today, and the second is how to achieve it. These two should be there, or two objectives are always there in sustainable development. This sustainable development concept has been again taken by the UN, United Nations, in 1972, the first time, 1972, by the UN, United Nations. The concept of this sustainable development has been again started by the UN, and then after it, in 1983, a committee has formed. A committee has formed, and or you can say a body has formed, governing body, who started working on this sustainable development. And then in 1987, we got the sustainable development again, like reports by this body. So in 1972, first the UN have a conference at Sweden, and there they started to talk about the how to get the sustainable development. And after in year 1983, and one governing body has been formed under that time the prime minister of the place, and on his name the report or committee has been formed. And in 87 then onward, we have a defined again a structure of sustainable development. This is how the progress took place. So first 1972, as I mentioned, and the name was of this development UNCHE, United Nations, and then conference for, it was basically the United Nations, and then the conference on the human environment. United Nations Conference for Human Environment. That was the name given to this conference, and it was in the 1972. Then in 83, this governing body has been formed, and that our common future. The name has given our common future. Our common future is fine. In 1983, one again government body or governing body formed, and the name was Our Common Future for the World. That is there, and under the supervision of the person name was, who that time become the Prime Minister of Norway, and he was Harlan, if you want to remember, Harlan. And then we have a Brandton, BRUNDTL, and then LAND. Now this is he was a chairman of that time. 1983, UN declared Harlan Brundtland as an chairman of this committee, and he again passed a report or sent a report. A name of that report was Our Common Future. This is how the development and evolutions of sustainable development took place. So first in 1972 at UN, there was a conference, and name was UNCHE, as I mentioned, United Nations Conference for Health and Environment. This is human environment. This is one of the conference was there, and after 11 years again, one governing body has been developed, and the chairman of that again governing body was Harlan Brundtland. Brundtland, you can say BRUNDT. Here T is silent. Brundtland, you can say. So Brundtland, under the supervision of this person who was the Prime Minister of Norway that time, and this body formed. And in 1987 he passed the report, or he gave a constructive definition of sustainable development. As I mentioned, the sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of today's generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own requirement. That is what the definition of sustainable development is. This is what the evolution of sustainable development. So I hope you have to remember these 3 years, 1972, then 83, and then 87. And UN basically is a leading again country, and always UN is there for every kind of development for the sake of the human being, as you all know. And this is how this evolution of sustainable development is. Now, the concepts of sustainable development. There are two kinds of concepts we have: conventional and sustainable. Now, conventional concept, once we are talking of, it's a concept where people talk about the development without taking care about, without considering the environment is also the crucial component. That is what the conventional again approach. But mind it, in the case of your sustainable development, we considered the environment is mutual again responsible and one of the crucial again component of any development. That is what the sustainable development approach, and this is what the conventional approach. So we hardly again give the importance of our environment in the conventional again kind of development. This kind of development we considered okay, this should be only the growth should be there, impact of that hardly we bother. Here we talked about the growth, development, and simultaneously will give the again due regards or due weightage to our environment, and at no cost we should again compromise with it. That is what the sustainable kind of approach or concept, and this is what the conventional. Here we want how much growth with the less amount of investment we want. Here we want long again kind of development for a long time. The growth should be also there, but not that only growth. We talked about how long it can sustain. That is what the concept of sustainable development, conventional and sustainable. So conventional approach that we use early, that we used in past, is no more considered to be the good way. Of course, we are talking about sustainable way where we want what kind of development it is we are doing today should sustain for a long time without any worse impact on our environment. That is what the concept of two concept, conventional and sustainable concept of sustainable development. Now there are the principle of sustainable development. Now certain of course rules we have to follow once we are talking about sustainable development, and there are 5 again principles of sustainable development, as you can see here one by one. Living within environment limit, that should be the one of the again principles of our sustainable development. We should live within the limit of our environment. We should never again start doing some development which is beyond of the limit of the environment. Mind it, maximum protection over our environment and then simultaneously growth we are talking here. The one of the principle is living within the environment limit. We should never again go beyond of it, otherwise impact will be always worse on us. Achieving and sustainable economy, we always talked, one of the principle is always to get our economy, sustainable economy, the economy which can sustain for a long. Mind it, any energy you are talking today, like solar energy we are talking today, with that again, mind with us, is solar energy will exist so far we want to, because the sun is again one of the infinitive source with us, can be used once we establish a kind of again infrastructure. Will keep on giving the energy, and utilization of that will be there years to years. And that is what the second is. In the second again principles of sustainable development is achieving a sustainable economy. Our intention should be get such economy which can sustain for, that should be the one of the principles of sustainable development. Next, promoting good governance. That is a third again principle. We have to promote a good governance. Here governance means how the government works, functioning of government we are talking. We have to form or we have to promote a good governance. It means the way of working of the government should be promoted, and that should be good enough, which can talk about the sustainable development, which can help to get the sustainable development. That should be the third principle of sustainable development. So first is we always try to live within the limit of the environment. Here limit of the environment means that should not impact the environment. Any kind of activities done by the human beings should not again impact, or any kind of development done by us should not again impact our environment badly. Mind it, because ultimately we have to live it here. And the second is we should get the sustainable economy. Our intention is always that. Third is we should promote the such governance which always should be good enough for our sustainable development. Using the science responsibly. This is also the one of believe in science and technologies, and using that science with responsibly, that is always very required, because without science it will go, that may not be sustainable then, and ensure the strong healthy society. And our principle should be, we must have the goal of our sustainable development should be, you should have a strong and healthy society, because ultimately society will impact by any kind of development, either it is a sustainable or either it is a conventional or maybe other kind of. So what are the 5 principles of sustainable development? As you can see, we always give the regard to our environment. We have to do whatever we want to do within the limit of the environment. Second, our sustainable development should be such where we can achieve the sustainable economy. And the third is we must promote the good governance, which can help us to get the sustainable development all the way. Or third is science, using science responsibility, and fifth is ensure a strong, healthy society. These are the 5 principles of sustainable development that you have to keep in mind. So whenever we are talking about the principles of sustainable development, keep these all 5 points in your mind. Then comes to the objectives of sustainable development. What are the objectives of sustainable development? Why we are talking about sustainable development? And what is the need of it? So there are again certain points like economic growth. Our objectives of sustainable development is to get economic growth, because growth is ultimately required. Without growth, no one can grow, no one will develop, no one will do anything. That's why the economic growth means the growth may happen without the cost of something, without again losing much thing. That is economic growth. So less effort and more growth, and for long term. That is the objective of our sustainable development. Then the environmental protection, that is a crucial one as an objective of sustainable development. Our development objective is to protect our environment. Reason, if we will not protect, the days are not far whenever we'll be not able to survive here on this environment, because one or other way human being try to damage, try to destruct, try to again disturb our environment. So sustainable development objective is to protect our environmental protection. That's very crucial, because ultimately this environment will help us to sustain or to live or to survive. So our duty is to protect it. Social inclusion. Our social sustainable development again objective is to do some development which help socially. It should help, like all the society's people should get some help from it, and overall it should be the social inclusion, means society should get the benefit from any kind of development that you want. So one of the objectives should be any kind of development that you are doing under the sustainable development should impact our society, to give something to a society. Society should be included, so that society should get some benefit. That is called social inclusion. And next is cultural diversity. We must give the due again respect to the culture of the different community. So all the culture again harmony, you can say, or all the cultural background people should get the benefit. It's not for the sake of one culture, it's the sake of all culture should be there. So one of the objective is culture diversity, means the development that we do or we are trying to do should again for all cultural people who are living on this universe. That is what the cultural diversity. So 4 objectives of sustainable development is, first is our growth should be economic, means without much again investment we should get the growth, and the growth should be continuous and for a long duration. Our environmental protection should be the prime again objectives of any kind of development. Then social inclusion, means society should get the again weightage in any kind of development, because ultimately we are talking about any development for our society. For example, if you are talking about hygiene, good hygiene, or no hunger or no poverty, basically we are talking about the social inclusion here, and the cultural diversity we should give the due again regard to the all cultural people in any kind of development. These are the 4 objectives of sustainable development we have. Then importance of sustainable development. What are the importance of sustainable development? As you can understand, if there will be no sustainable development, then impact of that you can understand. You have a tsunami, you have a cyclone, you have a flood. These all are basically the impact of not a sustainable development. So important sustainable development is very required, otherwise this environment. Now there are two more points, or three more points we have. One is a international efforts of the promote and implement the sustainable development. Time to time the international body again have the conference or meetings organized for sustainable development that we'll see. Then the sustainable development goals, SDG, there are 17 goals, as you all must have the ideas about what are sustainable development goals, that we'll see, and the challenges of sustainable development or challenges to sustainable development, that we'll also see. And as you can see here, I have written some of the years. In 1992 the UN again called one of the meeting has been organized, and again after 5 years, 1997 there was a conference, 2015 there was again conference, 2016 there was a conference by the UN, and 2019 again, that is the current year, the countries, the different countries again gathered together to have a discussion on the implementation and efforts to promote the sustainable development. And if you want to go to the detail about it, then I'll speak, or I'll again read for you. In 1992 UN conference on environment, UN conference on the environment in 1992 again had, and the development in Rio de Janeiro, an excellent plan for more sustainable pattern of the development was there. So 1992 UN had the conference in as I mentioned, it's a Rio de Janeiro, and there basically we discuss about the different again strategy or development of the environment development. In 1997 again the Kyoto Protocol signed again by the different countries for the sustainable development, and legally binds developed countries to reduce the emission till 2030. Here the countries decided that by 2030 means 2030 will be able to reduce the temperature, because temperature is also becoming one of the again great issues, global warming another. In 2015 again the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and new Universal Climate Change Agreement in Paris to limit the temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius. Temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius, that was the concern in 2015. And 2016 UN Sustainable Development Summit was there, and world leader adopted the new 2030 agendas of sustainable development goals, and in 2015 which were brought into the force on 1st January 2016. Here they decided these agendas will be started from the 1st January 2016, and that was again world leaders adopted the new agenda for sustainable development, and 2016 we start implementing about that. And 2016 the summit was world leader adopted the new 2003 agendas, and basically about the development goals in 2015, and last 19 meet was a special climate summit. Private sectors and the civil society will be the solution to the accelerate action to combat the climate change, how to control the climate. That was the meet in 2019. So as you can see, 1992, 97, 15, 16, 19, time to time the UN having the conference or meet with other countries, developed and developing countries, to have a check or how to promote and how to again implement. That is always there. That is how international efforts are always there to have a sustainable development. But that is only possible once, being as an individual, we also must have that in mind. That sustainable development is very required, and we must do something for the same. Now, sustainable development goals, as these 17 goals are there of SDG. As you all know, maybe no hunger, no poverty, good education, good health and infrastructures, then transportation and water, inside the water body, the animals which are living in the water body, they should be. Then green energy. These are different again 17 goals we have. That's the main target to again develop or achieve. And 17 goals are there in your books. Kindly go through and remember these all 17 goals which are there from the government side to achieve it. And then the challenge is regarding the sustainable development or challenges of sustainable development, we have certain challenges definitely. The first and foremost challenge is with any development is the financial one. And that's why the lack of financial resources. We as a developing country or maybe some other countries also have the lack of financial resources. From where to get money? Because it's not a small amount of money is required for sustainable development. Too much money is required for sustainable development. How to get that? Government hasn't got any fund mostly, and that's why the lack of financial resources is always considered one of the challenges for sustainable development. Then the second is country have the extreme challenge. Some of the countries where the weather is not good, where the climatic changes are there, where the cyclone is always there, where whatever we will start for the sustainable development, the infrastructure other may not sustain for a long. There it's a great challenge how to again develop it. Like many countries are there where the natural disasters are there, floods are there, and there it's very tough too. So one of the challenges is countries or the cities having the extreme challenges, natural challenges. Then the immediate profits. Sometimes the people want we should get the immediate benefits out of the again investment. And that is also the one of that. Government also want. What will happen? When will get? Why to wait so many? That is one of the again challenges. Immediate profit we want, but we may not get the immediate profit. Corruption is again one of the great challenges. Bureaucrats, politicians, because ultimately this fund that will regulate from the international body to this national body or other body. Meanwhile, the corrupt people are there, which never again allow that money to come to the right place. So all the bureaucrats and politicians who are corrupt, they are also one of the challenges for us to have a sustainable development. Lack of the efforts by the local government. Local government sometimes not putting much effort. Always it has been observed the local government not supportive or not supporting, and that's a main problem. And then we have a responsibility and accountability. This is also there. Who will take the responsibility of this sustainable development? Who will be accountable for that? And that is what the challenges we have for the sustainable development. So ultimately we came to know what sustainable development is. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of today's generation without compromising the challenges of the future generations to meet that time. This is what sustainable development is. It's very required, and development is always our intention, human intention. It's a desire of ours. We always strive for development, but we always have a development of any nature, not a sustainable development. Now it's a time we must have to think about the sustainable development and how to get the goals of sustainable development. What are the challenges we have just seen, and the time to time there is a conference by the UN and with the different countries, and they are talking about the different kind of like the climate changes, like the temperature, maybe the different goals, how to achieve that and how to implement the sustainable development. They having that conference or seminar or meeting again organized, and these are years. And then some of the benefits of it, some of the again factors, some of the principles of sustainable development you have seen. Kindly go through this, each and every point that I discuss, and try to digest it. It's not that way cumbersome. First time it maybe seems to be cumbersome because if you are going to hear first time. But slowly and gradually once we'll explore it, once we see this video again and again, so you'll easily again able to digest and will be able to manage this chapter. And this is some of the extra ideas we having in this IT 402. Okay, what is sustainable development? Because ultimately the computer that has been developed, also the manufacturer have something in their mind ki how this computer will work for several years. That's again the development of sustainable nature. And that's why once we'll be a scientist, our approach to develop something should be sustainable. And that's why we are studying this in IT 402. Kindly watch this video, like this video, subscribe this video, and this is the last chapter of your part A, unit 5. Now part B I'll start, but before I'll start the part B, let me to have a confirmation the part A is digestible to you. There is no query. If you have any sorts of query, don't hesitate, feel free to ask me any ways or means that you want to adopt. Thank you all.